say one thing here. During a project phase, I think every project starts with a requirement analysis. That's what I think I remember. Now, best practices tell you to start with the requirements analysis. Common sense tells you to start with the requirements analysis. Will innovation tell you, alright, do something different, start with actually designing something without even talking to the customer and trying to figure out what he wants. Just start with something, give him something, give him the prototype, and then go ahead. So,
can you have? Okay, I'm sorry, I missed to comment on your question, sir. I never said that you need to do innovation to move forward. In fact, I never used that term. All I was trying to say is the best practice is basically a knowledge which is available to all. The only thing that is helping the organization to move forward, again, if we differentiate between catching up and moving forward, I'm talking only from moving forward, not catching up. You see, Google, HP, the things that are helping them to move forward is basically the management. Right? The best practice is available for Google, the best practice is available for HP, the best practice is available for Accenture, IBM, everybody knows it. But what is exactly helping the organization to move forward? This is the best practice, they all have it. That means everybody should have been at the same place. All I'm trying to say is that it's not the best practice which will help the organization to move forward. It might help you in just catching up, but if you want to move forward, it is the organization, the management, the assets of the organization which will actually help you move forward.
I think it's good. Now, what I'm asking is does not having a best practice, not following, can an organization move forward?
So I have to change role now. Change role, we'll talk for
I don't think that you should change role right now. Why I'm saying is that, yes, best practice in a way helps. Innovation would probably actually distinguish and differentiate between companies to move ahead. But it cannot be there's no credit to the best practice. Best practice makes them what they are at the basic level. If you cannot follow that process in the right fashion, then it may take a long time for them to go and find out a best practice, which is already there, that helps them to leap ahead. So in that way, organization could move forward, but definitely what you said is right, because it has to be further ahead. You have to differentiate the same level between different companies, and definitely need to have innovation.
Do I have to talk for it? I would like to make a couple of points, if you may comment them.
Now we'll start the roles. Now we'll start.
Okay, yeah.
Now you have to say against.
Okay, I'll say for it now. Now we're talking about, it will be interesting, and I hope I don't contradict my own points.
You have to.
Okay, otherwise we'll be just repeating the same points, and she will be just taking my. Okay, what I would like to say is, if I have to talk there, but you see, in the earlier debate, I did not see any points which came forward saying that we need best practice which is helping us to move forward. I'll give you one example. I'll tell you, HP is a Fortune 10 company. I hope you all agree with that. A Fortune 10 company, we have the certifications, CMMI SVC, we have ISO 20K, we have ISO 27001. What are these certifications? They are basically a checklist of the best practices. You go with the checklist, say, do you have risk management? Yes. Do you have conflict management? Yes. Do you have this? Why is this a Fortune 10 company, which is already there in the market, beating everybody interested in this certification? The point that I'm trying to make here is, even the most matured organization might lose out on some basics. They would like to always keep on the watch. There could be it will act as a yardstick for them to see some new framework has come. Let me look at it. Am I already there? Or, you might think that I am the king, and if you relax, there is another one who is building an empire. He will come and knock you down any day you want. So, if you want to keep on the watch, you better be aware of all these best practices. Keep constantly checking where you are, and then take steps to keep on moving forward. That is one point. The second point I would like to say is, Mr. already covered that point. It does help in common language. Today we live in the world where things have to happen overnight. People don't have time. We are in the world of fast-moving life. And if things have to move fast, we do not have time for people to sit and explain what we are doing. If we say, my organization is ITL compliant, immediately you strike the other person saying that, okay, he has a matured process in place, he has conflict management, he has all these processes. The moment you say, I am ISO 27001, oh, he has security in place. You do not spend much time in explaining what all things you have. You do not have a certification. There is a lot of energy and effort that goes into in convincing your customer and winning a deal. So having the best practice, having these certifications will definitely help your organization to win more deals. Winning more deals is moving ahead. That's another point. And also talked about reinventing the wheel. We have best practices. Yeah, again, when you see about catching up, you are catching up with best practice, but at the same time, we know that we all have, common sense is not common to all, but we all have a certain level of common sense. Common sense comes only with your experience and exposure. A common sense that I have is not same as what he has, and same for the others and all for the organization. But like you rightly said, sir, these best practices are put in place with the best common sense that is existing, that is work. If I am trying to refine a wood, if I keep my hand in front of it and if I am poking the knife here, though there is an obstacle here, if it slips, it's going to hit my hand. That's a common sense. But I would know it only if I've experienced it. Right? In childhood, I've got through that. And now I know I should not keep my hand there. So basically, these best practices are guiding you for that. You do not have to commit the mistake which has already been committed. You quickly move to this place and then start thinking beyond this. So this is where best practice will help you to move faster to an industry which is already there, matured, and you have too many competitors. Let's say if I'm starting a new company, if I have to survive, I better catch up very quickly. Though catching up is like I'm all the time trying to catch up, I'm not trying to say that I'm trying to catch up quickly. And to catch up quickly, you need best practices because it's already tried and tested, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to invest time in deciding what is best for us, what is not best for us, when it is already through. That's what I would like to say. Thanks.
Sorry, Ravi, I'm going to have to interrupt you. I'm just going to address one of your points. How are you going to win a brownie deal, a brownie point with your customers, showing your certifications? Have you done, I mean, everyone here has given some or the exam in their life. Of course, that's how we are here now. What are exams? We just put on our best shows and on the exams and try and score the best marks we possibly can. What are certifications? You put on your best shows, you tell the assessing officers how good we are at it. You may not really be following all the practices and the processes at all times, but during whatever the assessment and auditing periods, you make sure that you follow all the processes to a T and leave no gaps for the auditing officer to assess your company as not compliant. So that is what a certification is. Now, if you go over to a customer with that certification, are you telling the customer, yes, I'm following all the best practices and I am the best candidate here for you and this is why you should pick me? Maybe not. Even if you have all the possible certifications in the world, you may not be the right person for me. I need whatever the customer's needs may be that you go out with the bounds of the best practices and do something innovative. And I'm sorry to contradict myself as I was before, but maybe you need to be innovative enough and not just follow blindly to the certifications.
So I'll take my point. Thank you, Sakshi. I think two things I want to bring. One is best practices surely will help us to not reinvent the wheel surely. That is the first point. Second point is I think it's a biggest challenge to the industry where it is people intensive. So the challenge is the change management process. Suppose if I have to implement a change into my organization, saying that this is the practice, probably the acceptability or adaptability of the change is going to be low. However, if I say that, okay, this is what which the other top 100 companies in the world did, let us also do this. If not crossing the 100 companies, maybe we would be in somewhere close to the probably the 99th company or one or the 5th company. So the adaptability and then the ability for the people to make this change into the organization, a person will be able to sell more effectively with a best practice. So that is the reason, best practices are important for the organization. I'll again still stand on the point to the extent of startup and civilization. These are all very important. And again, there are a lot of industry best practices, whether it is whether it is retail or healthcare or whatever. There are a lot of best practices. And one more thing is generally people have a syndrome which is called not invented here, which is simply called NIH. Again, this is to go with my previous point of the adaptability of the change. So usually if you go and then say that this was never done in my company, so why should I do this? So however, if I go back and then say that again, by doing this particular best practice, XYZ company got so benefit, and if I'm able to show that particular statistics to the people, maybe the acceptability of the idea is going to be increased. And then as said, yes, it's a common language, common framework, which will really, all of us will be able to talk the same language. Personally, I had observed, when I speak to the fellow PMPs or whatever, the kind of language that we use is very similar. When I say risk, it is risk for all the 10 people. But however, if I go and then speak to a developer, what is risk? Probably they would tend to mix up risk, issue, risk, constraint, obstacles, all those things they tend to put in the same basket. So having these best practices will help us to really
I'm sorry, Ravi, I did not quite understand you. I don't see how adaptability is for best practices. If you go for a change management to a senior, been there for a really long time, 35 years in that same old position, the director of the company, and tell him, this is my change, and I want to make something new here. And you know what? I think that the processes that you've been following for the last 35 years, I don't want to go ahead with them, and we want to have this change. This is my whole entire flow diagram. Look at this. This is how my graph shows, and this is my revenue, and this is the amount of money we're going to make with this new change. Are you really sure that the director who's been there for 35 years, been following all the best practices to a T, is he really going to improve it? I would be doubtful about that. The reason being, best practices are one of the most biggest hindrances in a company. The people are so used to following the best practices. I won't say really blindly, but being used to following them. They really don't want to think out of the box.
So adaptability not necessarily comes from the other, just because somebody who got that face would say that you need to follow.
I'm sorry, but they are the ones who make business decisions, and they have.
I think if you look at the industry, like very people intense. I had seen in my own company where whenever we do a big program, we come up with a designation called business change manager. Because this person's main responsibility is to talk to the business users, talk to the IT, and then see what works for both the parties. And then this person's main responsibility is to sell the idea. Though the sponsor can be a commercial director or financial director, but doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, people on the ground, they need to work on the system. So unless the people believe that this is going to help them, they are not able to use that system. So businessmen's main responsibility is to speak to the people and understand their concerns, and then put across, this is what the other retailers did in world, that probably they'll pick up Walmart or Carrefour or whatever, and then say, for them it worked, so for us also it's going to work. So that's where it's going to stand.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to quickly address this. I'm a capacity planner, and part of my role requires me to talk to everyone, the people who really take the brunt of it all, talk to the people, the platforms, the IT guys, and also talk to the business and try and convince them that these people really do need something and we need to think out of the box. And boss, this is what we need to do. But, the way I end up convincing the business is I tell them, here's how we're following the best practices, here's how we're doing this exactly according to the processes, and this is how this best practices is going to help us out. In the end, what I'm actually doing is talking in business terms and giving out a change in a way that it kind of conforms to the best practices. I know this kind of contradicts myself. What I'm trying to make, the point that I'm trying to make here is getting approvals happens to be the biggest hassles in the industry, where people do not want to go out of their best practices cocoon that they've built around themselves.